may be seated. And if it's all right, I will also be seated. Today I bring you the rest of the sermon on the plain, so hopefully it's all right that I join you in a level place. Today's gospel picks up where we left off last week with a continuation of the sermon on the plain. Remember those blessings and woes? Blessed are the poor, the hungry, the weeping ones. Blessed are those who are hated, excluded, and insulted. For this is how the ancestors treated God's prophets. And woe to those who are comfortable, well-fed, and laughing. Woe to those everyone speaks well of, for that is how the ancestors treated false prophets. Those riding high on the tide of public opinion by telling people what they want to hear. How do you and I hear these words of Jesus? These proclamations of leveling, of lifting up and calling blessed those we often step on or step over, those upon whom the wealthy build their kingdoms and from whom the comfortable extract their security. How do we hear these proclamations of leveling that say there is a balance, a circulation, and economy in God's good design for all of creation? And that when we allow God's enoughness to be bound up, when we block the flow of resources and mercy and goodness in order to benefit some through the suffering of others, woe will come. Things get bound up and suffering results. We cling tightly and are unable to trust and let go. Our comfort and our security and our good name become gods to us, and we will serve them at the expense of our neighbors, the ones Christ came to set us free to serve. And now Jesus takes us deeper into the vision of the kingdom, deeper into what it means to walk the way of Jesus. The blessings and the woes talked about the rich and the poor, the hungry and the well-fed, the ones who weep and the ones who laugh, the derided ones and those exalted. And then Jesus says, to those still listening, to anyone who hasn't already shaken their heads and walked away, that this is more than quid pro quo. This is more than be fair and share. Jesus says that that is just the baseline, the most reasonable of expectation between people. Of course we love those who love us. Of course we repay kindness with kindness and lend to those sure to pay us back. We want good things for those who can do good things for us. But here comes the deeper part, the Jesus invitation into new life. Love your enemies, do good to them, and give without counting the cost. That is what the children of God do, because that is what God does. Be merciful, just as God is merciful. These words invite us out of transaction and into transformation. From the eye for an eye that leaves the whole world blind, into boundless grace that sets us free. The thriving of all creation, the thriving of the realm of God, requires a very different ethic. It is neither everyone gets what they deserve, nor is it everyone gets the same treatment. In God there is no meritocracy or empty uniformity, for all fall short and all are fully loved and embraced. and each receives according to their need, and all have enough, and none have too much. Here on the plain, Jesus proclaims the kingdom and invites us to wrestle with the now and not yet nature of our lives. The kingdom is now, and it is also not yet here. We are loved by God and set free from all that binds us. And yet, we must wrestle with what these words of giving to the takers, not fighting the attackers, blessing the ones who curse us. We wrestle daily with what these words mean for us in this moment. What happens to our judging when we accept that we have already been judged and called beloved, regardless of our shortcomings? Where is the place from which we can condemn when we know we have already been pardoned? How can we withhold forgiveness as receivers of God's overwhelming grace? All has already been given to us, overflowing, and we are invited to meet all, friends and enemies, neighbors and strangers, with that very same generosity. These words are about the Jesus way. I'm thinking about the synchronicity. If you wonder if Allison and I have found compatibility, her opening and her word sharing and this sermon intersect in lovely ways. And it's giving me joy and distracting me. So let's enjoy the joy, and I'll regain my focus. These words are about what the Jesus way of resistance looks like. We remember that by the time Jesus preaches this sermon on the plain, the Pharisees and teachers of the law were already plotting against him. For Jesus, there are about to be very real-world implications of loving your enemies and turning the other cheek. What holy imagination is Jesus awakening in us to move beyond endless scorekeeping and retaliation into new life? What is the path of resistance we must walk that stands up for the vulnerable without doubling down on violence and division? How do we live this out right now, today? I am filled with fear and anger at the current dehumanization and lies being told about transgender people and immigrants. I am worried about the impacts of recent government actions around healthcare, education, public safety, and more, all of which carry the risk of harming marginalized communities disproportionately. It is easy for me to slip into identifying individual actors as the problem, and to stoke my self-righteous fury because that feels less helpless than fear. I'm tempted to isolate, to avoid those I do not agree with, to love only the neighbor with whom I am aligned. I feel the pull to meet division with division, self-righteousness with self-righteousness, anger with anger, and dehumanization with dehumanization. I feel like I am getting poked in the eye daily, and I catch myself sharpening a stick of my own when I am not careful. Again, I ask, what holy imagination is Jesus awakening in us? What soul work do we need to do to ensure that our resistance and resilience tap into a deep well of love and not a shallow, ever-spreading pool of hate? How can we pour our energy into sparks of love and liberation instead of stoking embers of resentment and desires to harm? How will the way of Jesus shape our words and actions in the midst of our pain and fear? I close with these words from Martin Luther King Jr. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Tend your light, my friends, and fill the world with your light.